Hey folks, on this episode of To The Point, we have a great guest. I'm excited. As you guys know, it is Veterans Day, and as we've been celebrating the first 3 days of Veterans Week, like we treat it like Christmas around here, I have a good friend of mine, Air Force veteran, author, and speaker, Adam Braatz. And that's right, you say his last name like multiple Braatz. So it's easy, see, Polish sausage. So let's welcome to the show my good bud, Adam Braatz. I just like saying your name, Adam. How are you doing, bud?
Oh, doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
I guess the most important question I can ask you on Tuesday, November 10th is how are you holding up with everything going on in politics 2020?
Oh my goodness. I think I'm split. I'm 50% feeling very relieved that at least this political transition season is for the most part over. I'm excited to not see the ads anymore, but I'm also at the same time, obviously there's some things that are hanging in the air that I think a lot of people that lean the way I lean are pretty frustrated by, and would just love to see a concession and see all this come to a close so America can move forward,
Absolutely. So let's jump into that. You open Pandora's box, and anybody who watches the show knows we like to go down Pandora's box.
I figured we'd just dive right in, right?
We just dive right in. We have two great subjects today. In this segment, we're going to talk a lot about election 2020. And let's come from it from an interesting perspective. So far, the numbers that we're seeing, our brothers and sisters in arms, which were a big topic as we got past election day 1 and started to go into day 2 and 3, was their votes weren't going to count. Now, traditionally, we've all mailed absentee ballots from combat zones or from foreign bases across. I'm older. My graduation date from boot camp is 11/11/94. So when we mailed things back, I've absentee voted from Japan and other places. Obviously, we weren't in combat in the mid-90s, but we've all done it. And they're always kind of counted a few days later. And suddenly we heard those weren't going to count. How did that make you kind of, as a vet, as somebody who works in the military community, veterans are clearly speaking out more to vote this year. And obviously we used our voices in 2020, unlike we did in 2016. I believe veterans were a big part of why President-elect Biden is now President-elect Biden. And the current person is leaving office. Well, leaving in a different way than most presidents will leave office. What do you think the drive for veterans feeling like they're being ignored or the military being ignored? What does that take you as a veteran? How does that make you feel that we're the first one? They're like, don't count their votes. Like, it doesn't matter. It's only the people who are here.
Well, I think there are two sides to that coin. On one hand, I think you'll hear a lot of verbiage from the Republican end of the House, from the GOP end. And, I say Republican loosely because Trump and his followers aren't traditional Republicans by any means. But they'll be the first to say that we support our men and women in uniform. And it really is semantics because there's not a lot of action to back that up. And I think the slander levied towards the entire absentee voting process did damage to the veterans and military members' voice. So that was very frustrating. And the other hand, the additionally frustrating part was that there really wasn't any basis to back up, any evidence to back up any of this slander levied towards the absentee voting process. I think they saw the writing on the wall that method of legally casting a ballot and casting a vote typically was favored towards the left end of the spectrum. I think they saw, even shockingly to a lot of people, that the military, especially younger military members, post 9/11 veterans and younger, were leaning more to the left as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I kind of want to jump on a couple points. Do you think that now we're recording this, and we are now working on, we discussed this yesterday on the show, our fifth DOD. Everybody keeps saying in 4 years. I want to remind everybody, General Mattis sucked it up for 2 years, and then we've had 4 more Secretary of Defenses Now, this is an odd, you saw this yesterday, obviously, as a member, as a vet, and you bring up our post 9/11 vets, and then I bring up vets in my generation. A lot of us were done. I was done with, I mean, not that I ever had a start with Trump, but if I would say that where the lines were crossed was the blatant disrespect of the late Senator John McCain.
Oh boy.
The complete disrespect of anybody, calling POWs weak. That Atlantic article, that wasn't like a layup or the icing on the cake. I already knew the guy didn't like us. It's been very clear the way that it's not liked. Where do you think that puts, how does that make you feel? You're sitting here seeing all these generals and now you see the DOD. What does that trigger in you as a vet? We're not idiots. We understand when there's a lot of turnover in our world. The DOD is a different beast, and we both know that. Like, whoever's running it, you have to be respected by the folks you lead. And this guy, he's a yes man. He's not even loyal to the cause.
Well, there's turnover. I think you hit the nail on the head. Just seeing the amount of turnover in a variety of very important positions in cabinet, through the Pentagon, through the Department of Defense. The turnover that we've seen, I think, has been a huge issue. It's led to some inconsistencies. I think is an understatement. And you had mentioned the kind of some of the not kind things that our current commander-in-chief has been accused of saying towards our military members. Obviously, I don't have a recording of it, but I believe in my heart that he said those things, because he's always derided folks that are fool enough to play by the rules, and fool enough to pay their taxes, and fool enough to do their fair share, and fool enough to not game the system. So I believe in my heart that he absolutely said those things. I don't doubt that.
It's funny that you bring that up, because you're talking about President Trump, as I call him around here affectionately. He's known as the Johnny Appleseed of COVID-19, and the White House is now known as the hotspot for COVID. He is both. We're blessed. Obviously, you live in a battleground state of Wisconsin. I think I said it right? It gets the right way, Wisconsin?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Just want to make sure. In a meat raffle, and we're good. See,
I've never been to a meat raffle. Actually, everybody brings up the meat raffle, but I've never been to a meat raffle.
It's all we have for material around here, okay? It's better than what I have for Alabama. Sorry, Alabama. It's not nice.
Right.
But living in a battleground state, obviously your state was a campaign stop for the Trump rally. Sorry, I get those confused. They look very similar. Johnny Appleseed coming out there spreading COVID to wherever he could. He doesn't come over here because we do have our ice wall. The blue ice wall is very big here. Mm-hmm. Y'all saw when it was 11 o'clock Eastern and it was 8 o'clock here. Y'all saw how quickly we went right to Biden. It's a problem that I see a lot of people glazing over, and we've seen it the last few days. COVID's not going anywhere. And I think that's a big problem with the election process, because there's so many conspiracy theories flying around. You and I see them on Twitter. What advice are you giving younger veterans who are looking at this? And they're business owners. You work with a lot of veteran business owners. Mm-hmm. What advice are you giving them to kind of keep calm? Because clearly our leadership isn't doing that. Leadership's not like, it's going to be okay. Instead, it's Kevin Bacon in Animal House standing there going, it's okay, nothing to see here. What are you telling the veterans that you are mentoring? How do they remain calm during these very chaotic times?
Oh boy, it's super hard, especially when we're dealing with business owners and young stage business, recently launched young stage businesses, and businesses that are trying to scale with our economy in such flux. The consistent part across the board is your network and your brand, really. So my advice is to not be shy about telling your story and your process behind the scenes, because that's the part that people want to see. If you want to develop a business, especially a small business, especially a national or remote based thing, you really need to have a strong, organically developed network. And so, that's one half of it. The other side of the coin is, kind of dealing with the stress of being used so aggressively by politicians, many of which didn't serve, to be painted into corner and to be leveraged as a talking point, to be told that, veterans feel this, or veterans should feel this, or veterans support this political party or whatever, when, the actuality is veterans are diverse, they're human beings. So like we're constantly being painted into a corner, and we're constantly being frustrated by folks that want to make assumptions about us. I mean, we're stereotyped aggressively by people that don't know us, and they feel comfortable doing it.
I love that you're talking about that, and so that's a good point for us to kind of pull the ripcord here on this conversation, talking